Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Stronger Than Steel podcast, hosted by myself, John Keir, and my good buddy, Austin Davidson.
Hey, what's going on?
How's it going, man? Season 6, episode 38 of the podcast today. We have Steelers-Chargers coming up tomorrow night. How you feeling, man? It's been a few days since that dreadful tie against the Lions. Are you still just as upset about that game as you were at the time?
I feel okay. I really wasn't that upset leaving the game, that last game. I mean, it sucks to tie the worst team in the league, but it's not like the first time. It wasn't the most disappointing one, and honestly, for a team that got 3 turnovers, to even be in it, to tell me we had 3 turnovers and didn't lose, I would have been shocked if you told me that before the game. So I'll take that. I was never really that upset over this one.
That's interesting.
Obviously, you want to win, but yeah.
That's just interesting because I think there's so many people that are pointing to they should have won, should have done this and that, but they did play very badly. And you look at all the advanced statistics, the talk score, you know, if you want to just look at the turnover battle, red zone efficiency, the fact that they gave up over 200 rushing yards on the day, a lot of it points to the Steelers should have lost this game, and the fact that they didn't is almost a minor miracle in itself, which is kind of incredible because I missed most of this game in terms of watching it, so I had to go back and watch it later, so I had the control and the ability to rewatch certain plays, and the way this game started was about as good as it could have gone. Outside of Mason Rudolph's interception, the first quarter was almost perfect, and then it just fell off a cliff.
Yeah, I felt like the turning point was really when Najee and Ray McLeod ran into each other, banged into each other. I think it was more of Najee's fault on that one. It disrupted a play, and then the Steelers had to punt from there after their offense hadn't really stopped moving the entire time. And then I felt like that's where everything started to go wrong. I mean, obviously it didn't result in a loss, but I mean, I felt like that's where the beginning of this game ending in a tie began.
Yeah, that's the second drive of the game. You're talking about the second down on the second drive. Yeah, the offense certainly didn't look great from there. In the evaluation of this team, and specifically the quarterback, Mason Rudolph, who we'll have a lot to talk about with the quarterback position today, but Mason Rudolph got the start in that one. I will say I feel like Ben Roethlisberger probably would have played slightly better in that game on Sunday, and I think the Steelers would have won that game. However, I also don't think that Mason Rudolph's game was reflective of anything other than one of Ben's not-so-great games earlier this year, which is to say that the range of play between Ben and Mason is not that great.
Yeah. Their charts look eerily similar. The differences that I noted was that Rudolph was much more willing to take risky plays downfield, like throwing it to blanketed wide receivers, just throwing it up, trying to hope for a prayer. I saw that a few times in the game. That didn't end up working at all. I guess other than the beginning of the game where James Washington drew a defensive pass interference. But yeah, otherwise their passing charts looked pretty identical, not targeting the middle of the field. A lot of stuff close to the line of scrimmage. The completed air yards is probably really ridiculously low. I didn't even get that statistic. But it's both of them is probably really, really low after that game, Ben and Mason. So, yeah. They're very similar players, except one's coming off the end of a Hall of Fame career, one is starting from here, and that's not good.
I'm going to have to check those statistics here. Passing.
The completed air yards has to be so... If you take into account, like, of quarterbacks that have at least, like what did Rudolph complete, like 26? I forget. He threw 50 times. I guess if you just do of quarterbacks who threw 50 times, I'm sure Roethlisberger and Mason Rudolph are in the bottom 10.
Mason Rudolph's completed air yards was 4.7 last week.
Ben's is 4.4.
Jared Goff was at 1.9.
Classic.
For the year, completed air yards, yeah, Ben is at 4.4, intended air yards of 6.8.
Very similar play style.
I do feel like the main difference is just, I think, general play and gotta have it situations, which is not, I don't want to be too unfair to Mason because he made some of his best plays of the day in overtime. It just happened that Deontay Johnson and Pat Freiermuth fumbled on both of those plays too. So just a stink sandwich there. And then on the other side, I know we didn't get much of a chance to talk about it, but a whole myriad of issues in terms of defending the run for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And just when it came to giving up all those rushing yards, the real sad part of it is that Jared Goff not only didn't play well, but was also injured and was practically no threat at all. And the Steelers still were just not able to get the job done.
Yeah, I really do think if they put in Tim Boyle, the Steelers lose. Like, that's all it would have taken, is putting in a quarterback that could throw the ball. They literally had no trust in Goff at all. And everyone's been loving Dan Campbell. I really thought that entire game was a mistake. I know, obviously, as a whole, the Lions have nothing to play for, but, like, if you're playing to win and Goff can't throw the ball on 3rd and 4, on 3rd and 13, 3rd and 12, put someone else in. I don't really get that. I had no idea what they were doing. They were to me, they were intentionally throwing the game by running on scenarios where you should never run, like 3rd and 14 in their own territory. I guess sometimes you can if you're really scared. You could do that to punt, but they were doing it because Goff was hurt, not because they wanted to punt.
Want to hear something else that's kind of bizarre? Here are the 5 lowest quarterbacks in terms of completed air yards this year. Jared Goff is number 30, whatever. He's the lowest. So I guess number 1 in this case at 3.6, followed by Ben. Next is Aaron Rodgers at 4.6. Mike White is at 4.6, and Patrick Mahomes is at 4.9.
Yeah, it do be like that sometimes.
So, also something interesting. Justin Herbert is only at 5.5, which is closer to the bottom of the league. Lamar Jackson is pacing the fields at 10.1.
Yo, that's my MVP right there.
Sorry, that's intended air yards. In terms of completed air yards, he's at 7.5, which is still leading the league.
Yeah, I figured.
Okay, well, we can wash our hands of that game entirely, I suppose. Why don't we move on to what's going on this week? So we've got Chargers week. The Steelers will be in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium for the first time. It opened last year. The Steelers most recently played the Chargers 2 years ago at, what was the name of that stadium? Dignity Health Park or something like that?
Something close to that.
It's where the Los Angeles Galaxy Major League Soccer team plays. This is where the Chargers were playing until SoFi Stadium was completely built. And you might remember that game. That was Duck Hodges' first career start after Mason Rudolph had been crushed by Earl Thomas. And the Steelers had a 24-0 lead in that game and almost had a bad situation where they nearly blew the lead and were able to hold on to win 24-17. The last time Devin Bush really looked like Devin Bush, just in terms of his splash plays, it feels. A fumble return for a touchdown and an interception in that game, Austin. Boy, this team could really use Devin Bush having another game like that, especially in this situation with the way he's played so far. He has been the subject of a lot of criticism, and I feel like we could spend a lot of time talking about him, but I'm sure we'll get there in good time. When it comes to this matchup between these two teams, Austin, Steelers and Chargers, for a long time it was Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger. Now Justin Herbert taking the place of Rivers. This has the potential to be an interesting game between old and young when it comes to the quarterbacks and the changing of the guard. What are you kind of holding your hat on in this game? Is that something that you're paying particularly close attention to, or for you, is it just another game?
It's just another game for me. Until the Steelers have their quarterback of the future following Ben, which I don't believe that is Mason Rudolph. I guess the Chargers are just something to watch with how they're handling their how they changed the throne from Phillip Rivers to Justin Herbert. It's quick for them. I don't think it's going to be as quick for us. I don't think we're going to be able to find a quarterback as quick as they did. I mean, the Steelers aren't going to pick that high. Basically, it's really hard to do that. Maybe next year, but not this year. So, yeah. Basically, we can just look to the Chargers to see how they handled moving on from Rivers and what they did in between.
Since this is, in all likelihood, Ben Roethlisberger's final game against the Chargers, let's look back. And when you talk about the history of these two teams, it's interesting to note that this will be the first time Ben Roethlisberger has started a game in the city where the Chargers are playing. Obviously, most recently when Ben Roethlisberger played, it would have been in San Diego, but it's not as recent as you think. He hasn't played a game in San Diego or Los Angeles against this team since 2006, just his third season in the league. The Steelers actually hosted 4 straight games against the Chargers from 2008 through the 2012 season and did not play in San Diego until 2015, a game which Michael Vick started on Monday Night Football. That was a memorable game. And then obviously the 2019 game we just mentioned. So kind of a strange anomaly. We've had 2 straight weeks of this fun fact being a strange inconsistency with the schedule, although I guess in this case it has more to do with an injury. But just interesting to note that Roethlisberger hasn't started a game at the Chargers since his third season. So 15 years.
Yeah, it's been a while. It really has.
All right. So when it comes to talking about these two teams, the Chargers were a team that was thought to be on the rise this year. Started the year pretty well. They were 4-1, but have now gone 1-3 in their next 4, and as a result, they're just 5-4 and are coming off a pretty disappointing loss at home to the Minnesota Vikings. After having a pretty good start and taking control of the AFC West, they've lost control of that now with more divisional games coming up. But this will be their last home game until the second week of December. So very important game for them with the playoffs looming. And I figured it would be a good time to get into the injury report, Austin. There's a lot going on with the Chargers, but not just because there's a lot of players listed, it doesn't mean that they're all not going to play, of course.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's not how it works.
All right, so I will cover the... Let me talk about the Steelers. Let's talk about the Steelers first. Obviously, they have one player left on the COVID reserve list, and that is Minkah Fitzpatrick. And Ben Roethlisberger was the player that was activated from there. So it sounds like he's all on track to start, which is what we thought might happen. Keep in mind, this did happen last year against, I want to say, Cincinnati when Vance McDonald tested positive. Roethlisberger was a close contact, cleared protocol, and threw 4 touchdowns against the Bengals. I'm not saying he's going to do that today, but anyone that is surprised Ben Roethlisberger is going to be starting, I don't really think they should be.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a big surprise at all. I mean, when your starter's available, you're going to play your starter. He's a veteran. He's been in the league for, what?
18 years.
17 years? 18 years? I could do math. Not really, but yeah, it's not a rookie that hasn't practiced with the team. So, I mean, it only makes sense to play your starter. It doesn't matter if you missed a week of practice. Not much has changed.
He already doesn't practice on Wednesdays anyhow.
Yeah, he missed 2 days of practice, basically. Missed Thursday, Friday.
Do you take anything away from what seems like the fact that Ben Roethlisberger and Mason Rudolph really don't communicate at all?
No, I don't really know why. It feels weird, but no, I don't really take anything from it until one of them speaks out and says, "Hey, we don't get along, and this is why."
Do you think there's any chance we'll hear about that once Ben is gone?
Possibly. It depends. Maybe if someone from the media asks Mason or someone about it, they might answer. I don't know.
I think it could just be as simple as they're not very similar people. You know, Ben is a very quiet, laid back kind of person, and he likes to hunt and whatnot. He's been hunting with Brett Kiesel, and I always remember Duck Hodges seemed to be a lot closer with Ben, and he said he was wearing number 7 in the CFL because of Ben. I feel like Ben and Duck got together and got along together a lot better. Mason doesn't seem like the type of hunter being the way that he is. He seems I don't want to accuse him of being like a glamour boy, but his brother is an actor after all.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you could just be, just teammates. You don't have to be friends.
Mason Rudolph could retire today and could star in a movie about a quarterback. I mean,
it's true.
He looks just like one, doesn't he?
He do. He really do.
So, anyhow, that's kind of a roundabout. Not really important. I guess we should get back to the game itself. So you're not expecting any massive drop-off in play from Ben, considering that he didn't practice, because this is not his first rodeo.
Nope. I'm not. If he throws 2 picks in this game, I'm not going to be like shocked or anything. I'm not going to say, "Oh wow, it was because of practice." I feel like we're going to get what we've been getting all season. It's nothing like. I don't think that he needed those 2 games of practice. He was there for the meetings to see what they were going to run against the Chargers. It's not going to be anything crazy.
Elsewhere, the Steelers are going to be missing 3 defensive starters and a role player on defense. Joe Hayden with the foot injury is out in this one. TJ Watt with the combination of the hip and knee he suffered last week is out. As mentioned before, Minkah Fitzpatrick is out on the COVID list. And Isaiah Loudermilk, who is now part of the groin club, is also out in this one. Going to be difficult for the Steelers to match the Chargers' difficult weapons to cover down the field after having lost 2 starters in the secondary as well as their best edge rusher in TJ Watt. I don't know where you want to focus in on this. All 3 of those injuries are pretty significant, but this defense is going to have its hands full.
It's definitely going to be tough. I mean, I was pulling through that one of those guys would play for this game, either Minkah, TJ, or Joe. But unfortunately, none of them could make it. We did get Chase Claypool instead, who has no designation, but I was hoping for one of the defensive guys instead. It really does suck. Your secondary and best pass rusher are completely messed up now. You're basically going to have to replace Minkah Fitzpatrick with Trey Norwood or Miles Killebrew, or now I guess Carl Joseph. That's not ideal. Your outside linebacker depth is looking gross. It looks like a preseason roster. It's Alex Highsmith, Taco Charlton. Those are your 2 starters. And then you have Delonte Scott, who just got put there. And who am I missing right now? Why can't I think?
Defensive lineman Daniel Archibong from the guy. I assume the guy who's replacing Loudermilk, although he might be inactive.
No, the other outside linebacker.
Oh, Derek Tuska.
Yeah, Tuska. Yeah, it's like that. That is a preseason set of edge rushers besides Highsmith. That's unideal. Joe Hayden is the one that I honestly care the least about because I have full and utmost confidence in James Pierre. I know he got burnt earlier in the year by guys like Henry Ruggs and Jamar Chase, but I mean, I still think that that's the smallest step down going from Joe Hayden to James Pierre. Going from TJ Watt to Taco Charlton, quite the step down. Minkah Fitzpatrick to Trey Norwood. I guess we'll see. That one's up in the air. I still think that Minkah Fitzpatrick's coverage is still at the top tier ish, but I mean Minkah's really been sucking on the tackling department and hasn't had the turnovers, so maybe Trey Norwood could come in, step in, and have a really good game to make up for it. I'm not sure. So I guess that the field's out on that. I'm really just missing TJ Watt.
Yeah, Hayden himself is having kind of a down year. I don't know if you want to say that he's necessarily at the end, but you can tell that he's starting to slow down a little bit here. He got burned by, I believe Khalif Raymond or Amon-Ra St. Brown early against the Lions, and had Goff been healthy, he probably would have delivered the ball to the receiver in stride because Hayden was beat for what should have been a long touchdown. So I'm not saying I'm happy he's gone, but I'm not super concerned about it. But yeah, otherwise, beyond that, not having TJ Watt's going to be big, and the Steelers haven't missed Minkah Fitzpatrick in a game, I don't think, in a while. We've talked about their issues of not having a backup free safety on the roster. I guess Carl Joseph could fit that. I mean, Trey Norwood didn't really do that in college, so I would expect this team to run a lot of double high. I think that's probably the smart thing to do against this team anyways, but I feel like that's the way they're going to have to approach this game.
I agree. I think that they are going to have to play too high. What I was thinking of is John Bostick available to match up on Keenan Allen. We don't have anyone for Keenan Allen right now. I think John Bostick's on the street. I think he's ready.
Oh, no. Is he? I'm pretty sure he's still with Washington.
Oh, he might be with Washington. I feel like I haven't heard that name
Yep,
in years.
he's still... That's a name I've not heard in ages. Bostick is playing for Washington.
Good for him. We need him. We need him for Keenan Allen.
After playing on 5 different teams through 6 years in the NFL, he's spent 3 straight years with Washington. Good for him.
Solid. Yeah, I would have never known.
Anyhow, let's get to the...
That was a joke. For anyone listening, that was a joke. Last time the Steelers played the Chargers, there was a lot of matchup problems. Or was that 2 times ago?
That was 2018. So the last time at home.
Yeah.
That was a frustrating game. Anyhow, where were we? The injury report. Yeah. And no Isaiah Loudermilk means probably more Henry Mondeau, more Chris Wormley in this one. And Carlos Davis, speaking of reserve defensive linemen, his 21-day window for being activated off of injured reserve has just opened. So if he's not put on the active roster in the next 3 weeks, his season will be over. And Kevin Dotson, the Steelers' left guard, has been placed on injured reserve, so he'll be out for a few weeks. Anything you wanted to touch on with these transactions?
No, not really. It's gonna be the one thing I'm looking forward to seeing is who's gonna be the left guard in this game. I'm thinking it's gonna be J.C. Hassenauer. It seems like he usurped B.J. Finney on the depth chart, but I feel like J.C. Hassenauer is more of a center. At least at the NFL level, he's been playing as a center more. So I thought he held his own last week coming in, but it'll be interesting to see what they do. They could also elect to put Joe Haig there, but I think that's was an emergency thing after last week when B.J. Finney went down, was made inactive for the game. I mean, and they had no one else to play guard after Trey Turner got hurt.
That'll be really interesting to see what they ultimately end up doing.
Yeah.
Haig actually played pretty well at right guard. I don't know if that means he'd play well at left guard or for an extended period. Hassenauer's routinely been thought of as a better center than guard, and Finney, it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah, that's why I feel like it could be up in the air. I feel like this last game could have been a one-game thing, and we might see Finney come in and be the left guard for this game. I'm not sure yet. We're gonna have to see from the first snap of the game if it's JC, Haig, or Finney out there.
Do you imagine this is a game where Zach Banner might see some extended playing time?
Maybe. They made him active for the first time last week. So I could see him possibly getting in for some more heavy sets.
I do want to point out that I think, Austin, we're getting to that point where I'm starting to believe more and more that Stephon Tuitt is not returning this season.
Yeah. Basically at this point, if we're looking for the Steelers to make the playoffs and for him to make it back for basically then, but you want him to get back before the playoffs start, and that's assuming that you're in it. And the Steelers have a very tough stretch, so it's with the 21-day window not opening yet, it's not looking very good for Tuitt.
I'll put it this way. If they were to open his window on Monday, the 22nd, because you're going to assume that he's not going to be ready in just a week, considering he didn't practice at all over preseason, training camp, whatever. That would make him earliest available for week 15 against the Titans, which I don't know if you're going to want to throw him to the Wolves right away in that game, so that would leave 3 games left at that point. And that's assuming he gets activated on Monday. So you're really running out of airstrip here.
Yeah, I can't imagine if the Steelers make the playoffs to just immediately throw him into a playoff game. Like if it got to that point, I know you just mentioned that there still would be 3 weeks, but it just doesn't feel good. It does not feel good for this year and Stephon Tuitt.
Kind of wild considering where where he left off a year ago, how well he played. And, I mean, let's be honest, we don't know anything. I mean, so little has been said about him recently. I'm not saying I'm expecting it, but if I also saw that Tua ended up retiring after the year, I don't know that I'd be overly surprised either.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really know anything about what's going on. We saw one picture. There was one picture like 4 weeks ago where it's like, there's hope. He's out there. He's doing stuff. No pads or anything, but he's out there. And then just nothing. No. It's radio silence on what's going on with Tua.
Coming off a career year with 11 sacks a year ago. Have not heard much since then. But obviously we'll keep you updated if we hear anything. But I'm not anticipating anything in the near future. Let's get to the Chargers side of things. They've got a handful of injuries. Jerry Tillery and Christian Covington are out due to the COVID list. Joey Bosa and Drew Tranquill have cleared COVID protocol, so they will be playing on Sunday.
Yeah, they're pretty low on defensive linemen here. With Linval Joseph having a shoulder injury and being doubtful for this game, he didn't participate in practice at all this week. They are pretty low on defensive linemen, and they're already not a very good team up front, at least when it comes to run defense. So they are going to be hurting. They're going to be starting quite a few like backups here, and technically third strings. Covington was, I believe, the second string for them. I think going into this game, they're starting now Joe Gaziano. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. I am not. And Bryden Fehoko. I'm not familiar with either of those. Oh, I'm sorry. No. Bryden Fehoko is going to be the starter, at least according to their depth chart, because he's directly behind Linval Joseph. So they are going to be banged up.
Looks like they just have 3 guys if Joseph can't go.
They elevated 2. I forget their names now, but they took 2 guys off their practice squad that were defensive linemen. I'm trying to see if I could find them really quick. It was Andrew Brown, once one. He's a defensive tackle. And the other one, Forrest Merrill. Forrest Merrill was the other one. He's a defensive lineman.
2 Forrests on the same team. Oh, wait.
Is Lamp still there? No. I think he's with the
Nope,
Colts.
I'm wrong. I take that back. He was there for a while, though.
He was there for a while. But yeah, so they have the depth, but just not a lot of good. But it might help them. I'm not sure. They have been really bad up front, being physical. There, and you would expect them to have more sacks because they're double teaming Joey Bosa every team that faces the Chargers, but they don't. They're 27th in the league in sacks. They're giving up the most rush yards per game. It hasn't been a very good unit. This change, believe it or not, really can't get much worse for them. I say that, and I mean the Steelers could rush for like 250 on them. Not that we've ever seen something like that, but it really can't get worse than what they have now. And Joey Bosa's there, so I mean they still have their best player. I know he's not technically defensive lineman in their system because they run a 3-4, but still, it's just this might actually help them more than it hurts them. Might give them a little bit of a change that maybe they needed.
Well, it depends on the way they're going to play things, right? And I guess that's kind of where we can kind of transition here. Let's start with the Steelers offense. The Chargers defense all year has been a double high team, not very aggressive, has been trying to invite the run. And honestly, that plays into what this Steelers team wants to do. They want to throw short, run long, and run the ball successfully. And they're perfectly okay with taking the 10, 12-play drives if you give it to them because this team has struggled mightily in creating explosive plays this season. So in a roundabout way, the Chargers could be just what the doctor ordered for the Steelers offense. The question is, will Brandon Staley look at what this Steelers team is doing and will say, we're going to go away from what we do as a defense and we're going to change things? Because Brandon Staley's a very big analytics-driven type of coach, and he's okay with inviting the run on his defense. But the problem is this year, his defense has been so bad at defending the run, it almost doesn't even matter. They're last in the league in rushing defense this year, giving up over 150 rushing yards per game. And on top of that, considering the makeup of the Steelers team, teams haven't been afraid to crowd the box because they know the Steelers are just unable to hit the big play down the field.
Yeah, so it does play out here for the Steelers. If they are allowed to run, it's going to be a good day for them. If the Chargers give them that, as you said, it kind of plays into what the Steelers want to do. It's going to be a pretty solid day for the offense.
The Chargers' defensive backfield is full of a lot of talented and well-known names like Derwin James, Chris Harris Jr., Nasir Adderley, and they also have a couple of athletic linebackers in Kenneth Murray and Kaiser White, who was a former linebacker. It's a pretty fast unit, but I think this could be an interesting situation where the Steelers try to run a little more heavier personnel, especially if Zach Banner is available, and I expect to see a heavy rushing attack from the Steelers in this one.
With the active inactives they have, I wonder if they're going to make Banner inactive again this game. I feel like it might be coming because they needed they chose to bring Daniel Archibong and Delonte Scott to the active inactive. It makes it so if they want those guys, they have to make 2 extra inactives from the roster, and I'd wonder who those 2 are. I think the obvious one is going to be Anthony McFarland since they've been making him inactive anyway. But I think they might go back to Banner. I hope they don't, though. I think you're right. I think running heavier sets with Banner would be nice.
And what do you make of that? The fact that Anthony McFarland at this point has played just 7 snaps this season and is getting scratched in favor of Kalen Ballage and Benny Snell. Doesn't speak well.
It makes me sad. I think that this is a misread. I think that the Steelers aren't perfect. Not every NFL team has made mistakes. Every NFL team has skipped over a Hall of Fame player in the draft or done something stupid. They benched someone that shouldn't have been. I think this is one of those mistakes. I really don't think that Benny Snell or Kellen Ballage are better than Anthony McFarland, and I don't know what's happening internally. Obviously, they have their own internal stuff. They understand more what's going on, but from a pure skill standpoint, I don't believe that McFarland is worse than Benny Snell and Ballage.
This running back room has been pretty bad outside of Najee Harris this year. A lot's been documented about his heavy usage to this point of his career through this part of the season. He's being used quite a lot, and he's done a good job handling it. He deserves credit, but you feel like at some point they're going to have to lean on the other running backs. But at this point, that's a scary proposition.
Yeah, I mean, having to lean on any other running back other than Najee Harris sounds awful. I don't know if the offense would be able to score 10 points.
Which is kind of interesting given our normal thoughts about the running back position, but my goodness, I'm very concerned about the way this team has drafted running backs with. I know James Conner didn't exactly have a great career here, but he was productive. Between him and Najee Harris, the Steelers have drafted Jalen Samuels, Benny Snell, and Anthony McFarland in 3 straight seasons, which means the Steelers have drafted running backs for 5 straight years, which is just mind-bogglingly stupid in my opinion. But the idea being all 3 of those guys have been major flops, or maybe not even major flops because it's not correct to call a 5th-round pick a flop when he lasts 3 years in the NFL, but I just come away more and more disappointed with these players every week.
Yeah. Drafting them in back-to-back years with Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland, it's just so bad. Running backs are so fungible. If you need one, you could go grab one when you need, but you really don't need to draft a 2nd-string or 3rd-string running back. Now you're moving down the table. If you shouldn't draft a 1st-string running back in the 1st round, you should not be drafting a 2nd-string running back basically ever. There's no reason to do it. I mean, in the 6th, 7th round, sure, but I still hate to this day the Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland picks. We really got to go back and look at who was taken around them and see if there's any good players taken around them, because that's just going to make me more sad.
Well, it's not just that they're taking those players then, it's just also that they haven't played well at all.
Yeah, nothing to show for it.
I think that's what's mostly disappointing, especially with a guy like McFarland, who I thought had the best chance to really be a significant part of the offense just because he's worked with Matt Canada in the past. He has the ability to be used as a gadget player, and he just can't see the field at all. And I just think that's a huge indictment of him.
Yeah, it's just not very good. Whatever they're seeing on internally just isn't good from McFarland.
As far as this game goes, we expect the Steelers to run heavy in this one. We expect a lot of Najee Harris. Do you think this could be a game where we could see maybe I'd like to see some more play action in this one. I know that the Steelers offense is geared to throw short, but I do think this is a game that, assuming the Chargers play the way they have defensively all season, I think I'd be okay with them continuing to run their normal scheme, and I feel pretty good about the Steelers' offense maybe creating a little bit of offense in this one.
Yeah, I think that, as we pointed out already, that the Chargers kind of play into what the Steelers want to do. I'd be cool if they stuck with what they've been doing. I mean, they're not really going to stop regardless of their opponent, but this is an opponent where it might actually work because, I mean, they got some pretty good safeties back there. They got some really good deep safeties, so I wouldn't really want to challenge them in both Nasir Adderley and Derwin James, who's having a comeback year. Definitely in the conversation for comeback player of the year, I think, at least. Yeah, so I wouldn't want to test deep in this game very much. I'd like to just take the underneath stuff, run it down their throat, and hope that that works. It's worked for basically everyone else, and everyone else includes guys like Kenyon Drake. Like this has worked for even the Raiders' offense without Josh Jacobs.
The Chargers have given up over 100 rushing yards in all but one of their games, and as a matter of fact have given up over 125 rushing yards in all but two of their games. So they're inviting the run, but they're not making teams pay for it on the back end.
Yeah, not at all.
Should be interesting to see how they deploy Derwin James. I'm wondering if they'll try to shadow him over Pat Freiermuth, try to be a tight end eraser, or if they use him to bracket a guy like Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, I think that this could be a game where they bring Derwin James up to just match up in man on one of those guys or something like that. Might change it around for this game.
All right, elsewhere, let's look at the other side of the ball. The Chargers offense does not feel like a group that should be averaging just 15th best in the NFL in terms of points per game. A group led by wonder kid Justin Herbert and a couple good running backs in Austin Ekeler and the combination of either Joshua Kelly, Larry Roundtree, Justin Jackson. And as far as their receivers go, they've got the old dependable Keenan Allen, but they also have a couple of good receivers in Mike Williams and tight ends in Jared Cook and Steven Anderson and Donald Parham. They've gotten a lot of good and tall receiving weapons, which is just wild to think about.
Yeah, you would expect this offense to be doing better with who they have, and not only that, they have a really good offensive line. They got Slater in the draft, and he's been playing right up to his potential. Corey Linsley, they got him as a free agent, one of the best centers in the league, and he's still playing up to that level, so he's doing good. This is Matt Filer's revenge game for him, so I expect him to have a solid game there. But yeah, they all around have just a pretty solid offense, and again, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are a pretty good duo. I'm still not the biggest fan of Mike Williams personally. He always breaks out in the beginning of the year every year, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is it. This is where he comes out," and then he just like kind of disappears for the rest of the year, and that's kind of where we're at. We're kind of at Mike Williams disappear time, but Keenan Allen's still very good, and Mike Williams is still something to be. He's still a dangerous player with his athletic abilities, so something to be aware of. I really like Donald Parham. I looked at him as a pre-draft guy coming out of Stetson in Florida, and I never expected him to really catch on. He was just really freakishly tall. I'm pretty sure he was like 6'8". Yeah, 6'8". Yeah, something like that. And he's actually done a good job to become a NFL level player from Stetson. So he is someone to watch out for in this game as well, even though he's a backup tight end.
I just can't get over the height of some of these guys. Jalen Guyton, 6'1", Keenan Allen, 6'2", Mike Williams, 6'4", Jared Cook is, what? He's 6'5", and Donald Parham is 6'8", like we just said. A lot of tall players, and considering how well Justin Herbert has thrown the football down the field, you'd feel pretty good about the Chargers having an opportunity to hit some home runs in this game.
Yeah, well, the combination of height and speed they have that ability.
What scares you most then about this offense besides the quarterback?
Besides the quarterback, it's between Keenan Allen and Austin Ekeler's receiving ability. Austin Ekeler out of the backfield is really, really scary. I mean, he's really good with the ball in his hand. He's essentially another wide receiver operating out of the backfield. And that makes him scary. And I feel like this year has been one of his better years. I always thought he was kind of overrated coming into this year. I mean, he was like basically a poor man's Le'Veon Bell when Le'Veon Bell was at his peak, like with the Steelers, where his rushing ability isn't what you're excited about. It was more of the pass catching ability. But Ekeler, I feel like, has become a better rusher this year. So I think that he becomes a little bit more dangerous. But Keenan Allen, I think, remains their best weapon that they have. I think that he is a really good route runner, one of the top in the league. And without the secondary, the Steelers don't have Minka, don't have Joe Hayden. It might be a little bit tougher to deal with Keenan Allen than it would be to deal with Austin Ekeler.
Allen's the guy that they go to and trust in those gotta-have-it situations, those third downs, those situations where you need to make a play on a fourth down or a third down or a down and distance situation where you need a guy that can get those yards, make the tough catches. He's the guy that can do that. Ekeler, you mentioned a guy that played the second fiddle to Melvin Gordon when they were both in Los Angeles at the time. Kind of a good combination, but as you mentioned, Eckler's kind of taken over that role the last couple seasons here. He's on pace for a career high in yards. In fact, he probably has a good chance to eclipse his career high in rushing yards in this game. He's had the last 3 years between 530 and 557 rushing yards, and right now he's at 523 with a career high in rushing touchdowns already. So even though he's not putting up eye-popping stats, this is a guy that's been very productive, not to mention the very good receiving stats he puts up in terms of volume on a year-to-year basis. This is a pretty good running back.
Yeah, and surprise, surprise, he was not drafted in the first or second round. Who would have thought? How bizarre. But regardless, he's a really good player, as you pointed out, and I think that he kind of completed his game a lot this year. That's why he's putting up those career high numbers at least in the rushing department.
Justin Herbert, a guy that the league was introduced to last year as the Rookie of the Year, 32 touchdowns, just 10 interceptions. He's maybe not... There's a lot of concern in Charger land about the fact that he's not necessarily pushing the ball downfield as much as they maybe thought. He's been running a lot of quick game recently, and there's reason to believe that it's not just the way defenses are playing him, it's just the way the offense is designed, which... I don't know, Austin. Neither of us are offensive coordinators, but when you've got a guy like Justin Herbert, who's one of, if not the best quarterbacks in the league at deep passing, I'd be wanting him to push it down the field often.
Yeah, I feel like if I was the Chargers, I would be asking Herbert to throw it downfield. He has the arm. Like, he could do it. That's not a question. But so far it doesn't seem like they're really letting him. So, especially with the wide receivers he has. Again, tall and pretty fast wide receivers. Keenan Allen doesn't make me think fast, but Mike Williams does. So I feel like they should be using that, but I hope they don't bring it out for this game. They could stay to what they're doing in this game against the Steelers.
So when it comes to this offense, you're most concerned about Ekeler and Keenan Allen. So I'm assuming your hope is that the Steelers will try to bracket Allen and take their chances elsewhere while possibly inviting the run with Austin Ekeler at times, doing what you have to do to try to sew that up. But besides that, you're just hoping for one-on-one everywhere else?
Yep, that's basically where I'm at. Basically, the Steelers have done a good job of shutting down a team's number one weapon, or at least one thing on the team. And I think I would choose Keenan Allen over Austin Ekeler. I just think that he's more dangerous here, but both are bad and really have to be looked out for in their own regard. But there's just some statistics I can't ignore. In the passing yards per game, they're seventh. In the rushing yards per game they're 21st. I'll invite them to run. And I'd rather them try to do that and the Steelers try to stop it than letting them get Keenan Allen deep and get the easy explosive plays and touchdowns and so on and so forth.
I don't feel good about asking Justin Herbert to beat me deep.
No, I don't either.
I think this is a game where the Steelers are going to have to blitz more than they have maybe all season, considering what they're missing.
Yeah, it might take that. We're going to have to see how good Justin Herbert is at reading the field and reading the blitz.
If there were ever a game to come away with multiple turnovers, this is the game the Steelers defense needs to come up with a couple. They need those splash plays. I think I come after Herbert early and often and, try to win on first down. But it feels like you're opening yourself up to issues if you're letting him throw it deep enough, because he's going to complete some of those. But I also don't know that you want to make him go all the way down the field, because he has done that this year too. So it feels like a pick your poison type of game with the Steelers offense. But I guess the only good news is that the Chargers have so rarely been able to do that successfully this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think of the Browns game where they were able to do whatever they wanted. That's what scares me. That's what the Chargers' potential is, of what they did in the Browns game. The Browns played awful in that game, but still, I mean, the Browns' defense isn't that bad. They have pretty good players. They got Myles Garrett, they got Denzel Ward, they got Jadeveon Clowney, who plays all right, Anthony Walker. They got a bunch of guys, and Justin Herbert was able to put 45 on them, and really easily. And now this defense, I'm not sure, is better than the Browns defense of that day. So the potential is there for the Chargers offense to just explode. It's just got to hope that better coaching comes into play, or better play comes in from the guys that are stepping up.
Alex Highsmith on Rashawn Slater is a scary matchup, because that guy has been maybe the best rookie offensive lineman this year. Handled Myles Garrett one-on-one successfully earlier this year. I'm concerned about Highsmith being able to beat Slater consistently. And with Storm Norton on the other side, maybe you try to get Highsmith lined up on him, but this is a game where you miss Melvin Ingram and TJ Watt very much.
Oh, yeah. You wish you had both of those guys so you can get a nice pass rush. It's really going to be difficult to get a pass rush in this game. We gotta hope for Taco and Cam Hayward to keep it up.
Oh man, any concerns about the Chargers' run game?
I think that Ekeler is better, but it's still not the most threatening part of their offense.
What about with the way the run defense has been the last few weeks, the better part of the last month? Because Mike Tomlin has said before that a lot of it's just tackling. I'll agree, a lot of these plays are made worse with the poor tackling, but there are issues with run fits that we've seen for several weeks over the last couple months. And at the same time, we've also seen a great performance against the Browns too, so take that for what you will.
Yeah, it's very flaky. It's very on and off, sometimes by quarter, sometimes by game, as you pointed out with that Browns game where their Nick Chubb was completely shut down, basically. I thought that the Steelers did a good job against David Montgomery as well, but it's very flaky. It's hard to tell. I feel like every third quarter is a new challenge. Waiting for the team to get to the third quarter is when they break down on defense. Always. For some reason, I feel like every game you go back, third quarter is their worst quarter. The other team comes out with an adjustment and they're able to do whatever they want to do. And I feel like it's always been rushing. And I feel like that's where we see the worst play against the run. So I guess to make it specific, I'm worried about the Chargers running in the third quarter.
It just really feels like this Steelers team is going to need splash plays from both sides to win this one. There's a reason why it's an uphill battle the second half of the schedule, even though this Chargers team hasn't lived up.
It'd be nice to see the Steelers play above their level in this game because the Chargers offense doesn't have that many turnovers. They only have, I believe, 9. Yeah, they only have 9. 7 interceptions, but only 9 turnovers on the year. The Steelers' defense is currently tied. They are tied. I was going to say tied with the Jets, but the Jets have the least interceptions in the league at 2. The Steelers sit alone at 31 with 3.
Cam Hayward has one of them.
And Cam Hayward has one of them. That's just unacceptable for where they've been the past 2 years. They need to play above their level in this game. I know that the Chargers have been really good with the ball for the most part. As I said, only 7 interceptions, but it would be nice if they could, get 1 or 2 in this game. Realistically, just 2 turnovers instead of just two interceptions. But gotta hope for that.
That holding call on Devin Bush last week was such a killer. Because that was the play you were looking for.
Yep, that's what you're looking for from Minka, and he just couldn't get it. Or Cameron Sutton to catch that interception that went into his hands. One of those things.
Real quickly, do you think Minka still picks that off if Bush doesn't hold? Because I think he still might.
I think he does. Yeah.
What a shame. Anyhow,
yeah, Minka played that good.
Anyhow, we'll wrap this game up in a little bit here, but I have my concerns about this game. I'm not saying that winning this game would be the most surprising thing for the Steelers to have done this year, but I'm not expecting them to have anything other than a uphill battle in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. I mean, there's a reason why the Chargers are favored by 5 points in this game.
Shall we get to NFL news and our picks this week?
Sure, we could do that.
Former Steelers outside linebacker Bud Dupree has been placed on injured reserve for the Tennessee Titans. The Steelers are likely not going to get a third-round compensatory pick now as a result due to the fact that he has not played much this year. The only other contract that would have warranted a third-round comp pick would have been Kenny Galladay's, but he too has missed a lot of time due to injury, so likely only 4th through 7th round compensatory picks coming next season.
Yeah, I haven't been paying attention completely with Kenny Galladay, but I know he's been out for a pretty solid stretch, so he might still qualify for that third, depending on how many snaps he's played, but Bud Dupree hasn't really been getting like the full amount of workload on the Titans defense to begin with when he has played. So this really sucks. There's no other way to put it. It just sucks that the Steelers are probably not going to get a third-round pick. Basically, the hope has got to be that he comes back and plays the rest of the year almost every defensive snap possible to keep it in there. Because I'm pretty sure there's still a chance that it stays a third-round pick. The comp pick formula isn't fully disclosed, so we don't always know how it's going to work.
I don't know why. I'd love to know what it is.
Yeah, I don't. Do you think that the rest, like the NFL, actually knows, like the teams? Do you think that they're given the rules, or does no one know?
I don't know. I could make arguments for both.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Because I agree with you. I feel like you make an argument for both. On one hand, you don't want to give them a formula where it could result in more people getting cut. You want to keep the NFLPA wouldn't be approved of that, where it's making those business decisions. I feel like to help the team in that regard, but also like they might know. I don't know. It feels weird, but yeah, I wish we knew how the comp pick formula actually was decided. It's probably really dumb. Knowing the NFL, it's probably like an opinion basis. Like there probably is no math behind it. They're probably like, yeah, it feels right here, but seems to be based on salary, which that for sure we know. Play time, which snap percentage, which is why the Steelers are not likely to get a third round pick for Bud Dupree, and possibly some other factors. Who knows?
All right, let's get into our picks. Oh, wait a minute. I'm forgetting here. Khalil Mack, the edge rusher for the Chicago Bears. His season is over. He's on injured reserve with a foot injury, and same for Seattle Seahawks running back Chris Carson with a neck injury that has been considered chronic, so it makes you wonder if he's going to return at all. So Mack is a guy that I wouldn't say has gone way downhill, but he's not the player he once was, and Chris Carson may never play in the league again.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. That kind of injury, hopefully his surgery goes well. Both of their surgeries, both of them are getting surgery, but Chris Carson's returning injury is tough. I mean, I guess at least he got paid, but that would suck if he's out of the league. He's actually a pretty solid running back, I feel like. One of the underrated ones. And Khalil Mack, Khalil Mack, I feel like he doesn't always show up on the stat sheet, but I feel like he's still a good player, but he's not like the Raiders' Khalil Mack. I think that's kind of what you were getting at as well. It's just like, he's still not... I consider Myles Garrett and TJ Watt on another level than Mack. Not very far, but they're above him.
Now this will be the second lowest mark of his career after his rookie year in terms of sacks, but I will point out that he only played 7 games this year, so he still would have been on pace for like 13.
Yeah. He still would have been doing really good.
He's still a good player. He's just not the game-changing guy he was in Oakland and for his first year in Chicago. He's 30 now.
Yeah, he's older.
3-time All-Pro, though. Hell of a player out of University at Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That looks like it wraps things up for our bit of news. Let's get to our picks. Starting, of course, we have to talk about Thursday Night Football. What an ugly game for the Atlanta Falcons, who, what a shame they could not have trailed this game by 28-3, but alas, it was not meant to be. The Falcons had played three different quarterbacks, and all 3 threw interceptions in this one. God almighty, what a disaster. The Patriots ran all over them and now have 5 straight wins to boot.
Yeah. Funny to note that 3 of the interceptions came back to back to back from the 3 different quarterbacks. Not sure we've ever seen that before. 3 different drives with 3 back-to-back interceptions from 3 different quarterbacks. Can't be very common. That being said, the Falcons just really suck. They really need weapons so bad. Losing Calvin Ridley sucks for them. It basically left Kyle Pitts and Cordero Patterson. And then no Cordero Patterson. He has a sprained ankle. So it was just Kyle Pitts in this game, and they just lack weapons. And then Matt Ryan also sucks now. It's just how it is. Matt Ryan's on the decline, just like Ben Roethlisberger. Likely, this is probably Matt Ryan's final season as well. I can't really imagine the team is going to want him after this.
I forget what his contract is. I feel like it's difficult for the Falcons to part ways with him up until, I believe, after next season it's more feasible. But I don't know. Ryan is one of those guys that has played well at times this year, but had an ugly start to the year. And obviously the other night was quite ugly as well. This Falcons team just really feels like it needs a hard reset.
They do. I mean, it sucks. Losing Calvin Ridley is such a tough loss. Like, that was one of going to be their young cornerstone pieces, and supposedly he's returning to the team this year, but I don't know why he would. There's nothing to play for. If he really needed time for his mental health, it's just I feel like he should just take off for the rest of the year. But sheesh, it's going to be the Falcons are in for a rebuild.
Feels like it's years overdue too, to be honest with you. I mean, this is a team that lost Super Bowl 51 in horrific fashion and has just not been on that same level ever since. And they've had some decent teams, but for the better part of the last 4 seasons, they just have not been the same competitive team, especially the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's been tough for them. It's been tough.
Is Matt Ryan a Hall of Famer?
It's tough. He's got that MVP under him. So is the question, do I think he should be an MVP, or do I think he's going to be picked as an MVP?
Yes, tell me both.
All right. Son of a bitch. I think that man, I don't really know his numbers. Like, I'm trying to.
All right. Well,
he's
2,000 yards short of 60,000 passing yards, 38 touchdowns shy of 400. So that puts him about another year or 2 behind Ben Roethlisberger's numbers. I will be honest with you. I don't think he should be yet. Now, if he puts up more numbers for a few more years, sure. I will also say that if the Falcons don't blow that Super Bowl, I think I'd view him as a shoo-in. So is that unfair for me to view it that way? Probably, but that is how I see it.
I think it is that way. I mean, he has the MVP though. That's what makes it really, really tough. And he's played decent other than apart from that year. Just sucks this year. That's a tough call. I see. I think he's better than Eli Manning. Eli Manning just has the two Super Bowl wins.
But that's more important to me, though.
Yeah, the Super Bowl wins are important. I don't know. I think the Hall of, because like if you're a really good player, like the Hall of Fame isn't for is it for now? It's like, how do you define the Hall of Fame? To me, in my head, it's like if you were a really good player. If you were like a really, really good player, that's what should, to me, get you into the Hall of Fame rather than the accolades. The accolades don't really mean as much to me. Because it's a team game.
So to you, it's more about the eye test than it is actual accomplishments?
Not necessarily the eye test, more of the individual statistics. But yeah, the eye test does play into it, but I'm more about how are they playing rather than how is the team playing. Like Joe Thomas, for example, on the Browns. Never on any good Browns team, never relevant, but I feel like he is a guy that could possibly go for the Hall of Fame because he was a really good left tackle. The offensive line is kind of not treated the same, but he's a guy that like individually, if you put him on a team that was going to succeed, like he would have been a like Super Bowl caliber starting left tackle, but he's never on a competent team. The quarterback's a little bit different because that kind of affects your team a lot more than, say, a left tackle. So it's tough to say.
All subjective because what happens if Tom Brady gets drafted by the Bengals and not the Patriots?
Yeah.
He said himself he probably would have been out of the league within 5 years. I bring it up as a devil's advocate point of view, just because I think it's an interesting conversation, and you put forth the question, what is a Hall of Famer? Because I thought for most of my life it was a player or a coach or contributor that made a huge contribution to the game, either by being an exceptional talent or changed the game in some way. But I feel like stat compilers have become a part of that too. And you can say, yeah, maybe a guy like Frank Gore is certainly not as good a running back as Walter Payton or Barry Sanders or Eric Dickerson, and I think that that's true. However, I also feel like there is something admirable and spectacular itself about a guy that has that much longevity. So I do think that there is some middle ground, but where does Matt Ryan fall on that? I'm not sure. For me, I said right now, I'd say no, but if he plays well enough for the next couple of years, I guess maybe, yeah. But also, should that even matter to me at this point, considering where he is in his career?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think if I were to call, I think I'd say I would put him in the Hall of Fame based on how I do it, but I don't think he's going to make it there. I just don't think that he's got enough statistics to get there. He's going to get probably be put in the Falcons Ring of Honor if they have one. I'm not familiar if they have a Ring of Honor there, but I don't think he's gonna make it past that. It's hard to see without the Super Bowl win. But as I said, if it was my own personal, I think I would, just based because he's played pretty solid over his career and he has that MVP. I'm someone that wouldn't put Eli Manning in my Hall of Fame. Eli Manning's just not good enough. He's just lucky to get the teams.
I'm kind of on the opposite. I'd be more likely to have Eli than Matt Ryan though.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just because and again, this is, I don't know. This is certainly an interesting conversation, something that we could talk more about after the season too, but have you ever been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, by the way?
I have not.
Highly recommend you go.
Never been to Ohio.
Never been to Ohio.
I would like to keep it that way.
Even for a weekend?
No, maybe. That's a joke, just because sliding Ohio is fun and easy. But I would like to see it eventually, for sure.
It is very cool. But okay, that was a very long roundabout way to talk about Thursday Night Football, which was a lot less interesting than the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'll leave it at that, I guess. Hey, at least the Falcons looked good in losing.
The uniforms.
Yeah, the uniforms. I was very happy that you didn't even bother tagging me in my pick for this one because you already knew where I stood.
I knew exactly what you were picking, yeah.
So that makes 10 straight weeks I have not picked the Falcons. So, all right, let's move into the 1 o'clock slate of games. The Indianapolis Colts are at the Buffalo Bills. Let me check and see if there's any injuries going on for this game right now. Trying to see who's been declared out. I have currently only 2 players questionable, Tremaine Edmonds and Darius Leonard. So 2 men in the middle of these 2 defenses potentially not playing in this one. The Buffalo Bills are touchdown favorites at home. Boy, I bet that crowd is going to be crazy. It's starting to get cold in Western New York, Austin. I feel like the Bills are going to win in this one. But I do like the Colts to keep it close. I'll take the Colts plus 7.
I'm going to take the Bills to cover here. I think that Carson Wentz is playing better for the Colts throughout this year, better than I expected. But I still think that the Bills are going to have another solid game here. My main concern is with the Bills is they haven't beat, anyone good-ish. It's hard to tell where the Chiefs are at. So I feel like at the time when they beat the Chiefs, it was wow, this is monumental. Then it's 2 weeks later, it's oh wait, the Chiefs defense just sucks. They're really bad. And then Patrick Mahomes is throwing picks like a madman. But other than that, the Bills have beat up on some pretty bad teams. I do think that they'd still be able. I think they can handle the Colts by 7. I'm going to pick the Bills to cover before I talk myself out of it.
Ravens at Bears. Very interesting game. The Ravens are favored by 5 on the road. You don't see that number very often. The Bears are coming off the bye, though. Kind of interesting. The Ravens have a whole host of injuries. Lamar Jackson is sick. No Miles Boykin. No Brandon Williams. No Pernell McPhee. Marquise Brown was questionable.
Marquise Brown is out.
Oh, he is out. I apologize.
He's downgraded.
Okay, so NFL.com was not updated. The Bears are likely to miss Damian Williams and Akeem Hicks. I don't know, Austin. This feels like an interesting game where if Justin Fields plays like he did against the Steelers, this could be a big game for the Bears, but on the other hand, that zero blitz could cause a lot of problems for him. This is the biggest wild card of the weekend, in my opinion. I do like the Ravens in this one, though, just because I trust them more than I do Justin Fields and the Bears.
I felt the same way. I was looking at this game it was like the Ravens just blew a game to the Dolphins. This game was more realistic to be blown than that game. I was looking at it and I was like, oh, what am I going to base this off of? And it really came down to the Bears offensive line still just not being good enough. I think Calais Campbell might have a big game here. I'm actually hoping for it. I started in one of my fantasy leagues, but that's besides the point. I just think that overall, I think Baltimore's still better. I'll be worried if Lamar Jackson doesn't play. There's a rising they promoted Trace McSorley for this game, which makes me a little bit scared for that. That they really think that there's a chance that Lamar Jackson, because this is not normal. They haven't been doing that this year.
Just wanted to throw in real quick. NBC Sports Edge just tweeted 2 minutes ago that Lamar Jackson is 50-50 to start.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. So there's a legitimate... Oh, now that changes things. I might want to bet on the Bears.
I'm going to switch to the Bears, actually.
Yeah, if we're sticking to this -5 line, I'm going to switch to the Bears +5.
Take it and run with it.
Yeah, I mean, if Lamar Jackson plays, so be it. But, man, I've never met a man that got more sick than Lamar Jackson. I feel like he's on the injury report every week for sickness. He had that one game where he had to run to the locker room because of stomach pains, quote unquote. Man just had to shit, but I'll count that as illness. But Just wild. Give me the Bears +5 here.
Sick Again by Led Zeppelin. That's his theme song.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Lions and Browns. Man. Detroit is down Jared Goff in this one. They're down Jamar Jefferson, their number 2 running back. DeAndre Swift was on the injury report. They're down Matt Nelson, their reserve tackle. They're down Trey Flowers, their best pass rusher. So, is there any hope for them in the Tim Boyle-led Lions? I mean, the Browns are going to be without Troy Hill, Anthony Schwartz, and A.J. Green. I'll take the Lions plus the 12.5 and to win outright because, good God, someone else in this division needs to be embarrassed by the Lions more than the Steelers because this tie stinks like a shit sandwich and it needs to go away.
Yeah, it's too bad the Ravens beat the Lions. I'm going to also pick the Lions plus 12.5. I think that's too big of a spread, and it's Tim Boyle season.
Texans at the Titans. Titans offense has been meandering around for a while, and they're going to be without Jeremy McNichols, Bud Dupree, as we already mentioned. Rashaan Evans is out. They've got a number of players out in this one. The Texans are going to be without Hardy Nickerson at linebacker, but otherwise are relatively healthy. Titans are only favored by 10, but considering all the injuries they have, I kind of get it. But I'm still going to take the Titans to cover somewhat tentatively. I am a little bit nervous about this one.
Yeah, it's a big spread to bet on. I am going to also pick the Titans to cover, though. I feel like since Tyrod got back, he's just not playing that good, so I'm going to pick the Titans to cover here.
He's driving his price down so he can sign in Pittsburgh for the vet minimum next year.
It's true. That's my quarterback next year. I won't talk shit when he gets here.
Packers at Vikings. This is the surprising line of the week to me. Green Bay is only favored by 1 point in Minnesota. I guess they're not big believers in the Packers at this point. They do have a lot of players missing due to injury on defense. They obviously still don't have Jair Alexander. Rashawn Gary is questionable, so they've been really banged up at edge rusher. And they also have David Bakhtiari is going to be out of this one. Aaron Jones is out of this one. So should be interesting for them and what they're all dealing with. Just Wyatt Davis is out for the Vikings. This is a must-win for the Vikings, and the division is lost. But I have a hard time picking against the Packers here.
Yeah, give me the Packers to cover. I'm going to lock that in. I think the loss of Aaron Jones is being taken very hard. But I think A.J. Dillon's played really well stepping in for Aaron Jones. So that to me doesn't really make a difference. Not that Aaron Jones isn't a good player, but running backs tend to be fungible. So give me the Packers to cover, and that's my lock.
Dolphins at Jets. The elite Joe Flacco making his return to the Big Apple and starting for the Jets for reasons I do not understand. The Dolphins are 3.5 point favorites on the road. Give me Tua and the Dolphins in this one. I think they turned a bit of a corner last week, and while I don't think they're going to be anywhere close to a great team the rest of the way, I think they will be far more competitive than they were in the first month and a half.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with Miami as well. I just can't pick the Jets anymore, as I said last week.
All right. We are moving on to Saints and Eagles. Let me get that injury report popped up here. A host of players out for the Saints in this one, including Ryan Ramczyk, Alvin Kamara, Ty Montgomery, Teron Armstead, Malcolm Roach. Give me the Eagles minus the 2.5 point spread here. Just too many banged up players on the Saints side here. I know that they have that really good rushing defense, so it'll probably slow down the Eagles, but I don't feel good about a Saints team that's missing their top 2 tackles and Alvin Kamara, because unlike most teams, Kamara is one of the running backs that might be the exception to the rule, so we'll see a lot of Mark Ingram in this one.
This game feels stupid. Like, I really shouldn't have fumbled with it for so long. It feels like it should be a clear Eagles victory. I'm just really worried about the Saints defense. Like, the Saints defense might keep them in. The Saints offense is just so broken and busted down and beat to pieces. They have no weapons. They have their 2 tackles aren't starting, and they're really good offensive linemen. No Alvin Kamara. It seems like an easy Eagles pick, but like something in my head is telling me that the Saints are gonna come in and beat the Eagles 40-14, something like that. I'm still picking the Eagles to cover though, despite those intrusive thoughts.
Washington football team at the new Cam Newton-led Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are 3.5-point home favorites, and this is going to be an interesting game because it's the return of Ron Rivera to Carolina. I think he's got a game plan set for Washington, who even minus Chase Young are going to be able to come up with a surprise upset win in Carolina this week. So give me Washington plus 3.5.
I'm going to pick the Panthers to cover. I think that they're going to have a tough time stopping a fully healthy Christian McCaffrey, so that's what I'm rolling with.
San Francisco 49ers at the Jacksonville Jaguars. The 49ers are 6.5-point favorites on the road. Give me the Niners in this one. Jimmy Garoppolo has played very well as of late, and as he continues to play well, I like the Niners' chances of not making a push here per se, but I do think that they'll take care of business against a weak Jaguars team.
Give me San Fran as well in this game. I just don't believe in the Jaguars at all.
Fair enough. No more need be said. Into the 4 o'clock slate of games. Interesting matchup between the Bengals at the Raiders, 2 5-4 teams who had hot starts to the year and have cooled off significantly since then. The Bengals, the far more healthy team going into this one. The Raiders without fullback Alec Ingold and their linebacker Nick... I don't even know how you say that name, Austin. Do you know how to say that?
Kwiatkowski, I think.
Aha. You did much better than I. So, the Bengals are actually a 1-point favorite on the road. I'm going to take the Raiders here. This one is a bit of a toss-up to me. I think the line is about right, though. I am going to take the Raiders. I trust Derek Carr a little more than I trust Joe Burrow at this point.
You forgot to mention that fullback legend Sutton Smith is now part of the Raiders.
I was just letting you handle that. I knew you were going to.
Thanks, Sutton Smith, the edge rusher from North Illinois University?
Former Steelers 6th-round pick.
Okay, it is Illinois. All right, I forgot if it's Illinois or Iowa. But, yeah, he's a fullback now, fully, and he's going to be their starter, I guess, now, because no other fullback on the roster, so that's kind of cool. Good for him to make it back around. I'm going to pick the Bengals to cover.
All right, into the 425 slate here. The Cowboys at Chiefs, the Fox game of the week. Some injuries in this one, but only one player declared out, Lucas Niang, tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are 2.5-point favorites at home, an old matchup of what was the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Texans. I like the Cowboys in this one. I think the Cowboys are a really complete team, and the Chiefs, they may have started to right the ship, but this is a tough team to try to continue to play better against. I'd like the Cowboys to win this one straight up.
This one hurts because I forgot that Amari Cooper was put on the COVID list. I'll still pick the Cowboys plus 2.5. Nope. I'm picking Kansas City cover. I was really, I just can't. I really don't want to pick Kansas City anymore to cover, but that is another line that's just small enough where I'm like, I can. I think it literally hit 3.
You can do it. You can thread that needle.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Kansas City to cover here. No Amari Cooper. CeeDee Lamb is still really solid. Michael Gallup's still really solid, but I think it changes things a little bit. Give me Kansas City.
All right. By the way, I took the 49ers as my lock of the week over the Jaguars, minus 6.5. Cardinals at Seahawks for Sunday Night Football. It's the NFC West. I skipped a game, and I was wrong about Sunday Night Football because it's the Steelers game. I am on the struggle bus. So let me back up here. NFC West Cardinals at Seahawks for the 4 o'clock games. Just no DeAndre Hopkins. Kyler Murray is expected to not play in this one. So the Cardinals are again banged up, but there's a bunch of players on the injury report for both teams. The Cardinals are only 1.5 favorites on the road against the Seahawks. I'm going to take the Seahawks. This is a game they desperately need to win. Another week for Russell Wilson to continue to get healthy. I think the Seahawks win this one outright.
The NFC West is stupid. I'm going to pick the Cards to cover without DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray. Just doesn't ever make sense, these matchups, so give me that.
Giants and Buccaneers. Tampa Bay is an 11-point favorite at home. In this one, man, the Giants have not played well this year, and I thought Daniel Jones was playing a little bit better earlier in the year, but he has struggled as of late. But then again, so have the Buccaneers. They haven't been great. Last year, these two teams played a close Monday night game that the Buccaneers won 25-23. I like the Giants plus 11. I think this will be a backdoor cover sort of situation.
I could totally see that. I'm going to pick the Buccaneers to cover, though.
All right, the Broncos and Rams are on byes this week. Shall we get into our final preview for the Steelers and Chargers?
Sure, we can do that.
All right, go ahead and lead off.
All right. So, I'm going to start with my final score prediction. Despite everything, I feel like the Steelers are going to somehow be competitive in this game. I think that the line of the Chargers being 5.5 favorites, I think that's a fair line. But I am going to pick the Steelers to actually win in this game. I don't really know how. I don't feel like they're the better team. They don't look like the better team. But I think that there's going to be some magic here. The past two games against the Chargers were able to battle back into it one way or another. They lost the last one. But they were able to battle back into the one before that and win it. And I think that the Steelers could use some of that luck in this one. I think it's going to turn around. So I'm going to have the Steelers winning and putting up a miraculous 30 points. Steelers win 30, and they hold the Chargers to 27. I think that would be enough. That's kind of a lot of points to give up. Anyway, so that's my final score prediction. Offense, defense. I think that Alex Highsmith is going to be a difference maker in this game. For defense, I think that he going up against Rashawn Slater is going to be a very tough matchup. I'm looking for him to do something impressive, a breakout game sort of thing. I know Rashawn Slater isn't quite established in the league yet. He's a rookie. I'm going only on his 11th, 12th game here. But I think that him showing that he could have a big game against a player that's already showing dominance like Slater has would be huge. It would be great for him. As for offense, I'm cheating. I'm going pretty easy. I'm picking Najee Harris. The offense has been really good. Offenses against the Chargers have been really good against They've been good running against the Chargers. So I'm going to pick Najee Harris to be the difference maker here. He's just got to keep it up, keep doing what he's doing, and run the ball down their throat. So if you want to make it a little bit different, I'll say Najee Harris slash Matt Canada. Don't get cute. Just rush the ball at them. Ask them to stop it. Invite them to stop it. And if they do, then that's when you start open up the pass. But don't. There's no reason to get cute here. This is the worst team in the league against the rush. So don't do anything like that. Anyhow, as my bold predictions go, I'm going to have Najee Harris with not one, not two, not three, but all four of the Steelers' touchdowns in this game. And you might be saying, Austin, you picked the score to be 30. How does that make sense? I'm picking a safety again, boy. Let's go. There's going to be a safety in this game.
Goodness.
Najee Harris has 4 touchdowns, miraculously. There's going to be a safety in this game. I picked that last week as well, but I really want it to happen again. And honestly, I think I'm going to leave it at just those two. I don't think I'm going to pick a third bold prediction today. So you can go ahead and list all your stuff.
All right. So I'm going to work in reverse order. I'm going to keep my eyes circled on Chase Claypool on offense because he's coming off of injury. He's only had really one good game this season, the 5-catch, 130-yard performance against the Broncos earlier this year. A guy that has not been able to make big plays in the way the Steelers have needed him to consistently this year, but has made a handful. And I'm hoping that this is the type of game against a talented Chargers secondary in a game where the Steelers are probably going to need big plays to win, that Claypool can come up with them. So my bold predictions are that he has a 10 reception, 175-yard, and 2 touchdown performance. On the other side, I'm picking Devin Bush because this is a guy that's been much maligned and has really struggled in lots of ways. And after improving from year 1 to year 2, has seemingly regressed rather significantly in year 3, and honestly is in danger of not getting his 5th-year option picked up with the way he's played right now. The last time the Steelers played the Chargers, Devin Bush had a coming-out party, scoring a touchdown and intercepting a pass as well. This is the type of game where Devin Bush needs to continue to break out and help this defense maintain a strong front against a talented Chargers offense. My bold prediction for him is that he misses 0 tackles in this game, and that is bold enough because he has been that bad at missing tackles this year, so that's all I really need to say as far as a bold prediction for him. Ultimately, I think the Steelers are not going to be able to keep up with the Chargers offensively. I think it's honestly just an insane anomaly that the Chargers have not been able to put up 30-plus points more than twice this season with all the talent they have on offense. They really only have one hole on the offensive line at right tackle. I mean, otherwise, this offense is pretty talented no matter how you want to look at it. And the way the Steelers' defense has played this year and the fact that they're missing 3 starters, including 2 in the secondary, makes me very nervous about their ability to play and keep a lid on things. On the other side of the ball, I think the Steelers' offense is going to be able to do what it wants to do for a majority of the game, but I do think that there's going to be some turnovers involved, and we just haven't seen this team surpass 30 points in a game very often the last couple seasons, so I just have a hard time believing it until I see it. So I took the Chargers to cover the 5.5 point spread and win 31-23. All right. Any final thoughts on this game?
Nope. Just go Steelers.
All right. Wanted to add a little fun mini segment to add here at the end just to kind of lighten the mood before we close things out and do a little bit of co-host trivia. So if you want, you can think of a question to ask me that I can try to answer, but if not, I have a question for you that is a little bit topical considering it's Saturday, and just wanted to throw it out there just so that we could learn a little bit more about each other. So my question to you is, Austin, what was my first favorite college football team? And I'll tell you that it's not the answer you might think it is. It's not a trick question, basically.
So it's not a trick question?
It's not Pittsburgh. That's basically what I'm telling you. It's not.
Oh, okay.
It's not Pitt. So
part of me thinks it's LSU.
LSU is one of my favorites, but I'll tell you no. It's I guess it would be considered East Coast. Yeah, it's an East Coast team, and it's a team that. It's a team whose colors are navy and orange.
Syracuse?
Nope. I'll give you one more guess.
Okay. Navy and orange.
I can try.
Auburn?
No, it's actually Virginia, the team that Pittsburgh played today.
Oh, man. I would have never guessed that.
I was born in Virginia, and one of the earliest memories I ever have of watching football was a game between, I want to say, Virginia and Virginia Tech, or maybe Virginia and another school, at a restaurant with my dad and my grandfather when I was probably like 4 or 5. So that was why I decided I liked Virginia. Obviously, a lot's changed since then, and they play in the same conference as Pittsburgh. But yeah, I figured that's something you never would have known.
No. Honestly, I didn't even know their colors were navy and orange. I literally could only come up with Auburn for those colors, and I don't even think Syracuse is navy and orange.
No, it is. It is.
Oh, okay. So at least I got 2 navy and orange teams.
You did get that right. There was a period in time where Syracuse was only wearing like orange and white, at least in basketball. But no, you got that right.
Okay, cool. So at least I guess teams that were realistic, I suppose.
Yeah, well, and the other thing about Syracuse is, I'm assuming you're going with the local connection, which if they hadn't been rivals with Pitt, it probably would have made sense. And I mean, to be honest with you, I do like Syracuse. I like going to games there. I was really hoping to go see the game that they're playing against Pittsburgh next week, actually, but I don't think that's going to happen.
That's a shame. I hope you get there anyway.
Well, we'll see, man. We'll see. But yeah, Virginia, definitely the curveball of the week there. Do you want to try one, or do you want me to try to come up with another one just for fun?
I honestly couldn't come up with one in time.
Okay.
Not football related. So if you,
I got
you
one
have
more.
One?
I got one more.
Okay.
What was my first job? My first job. So this was
thinking.
I was in high school.
I feel like you.
I might have mentioned this to you before.
I think you have. That's like I have something in my head, but like I don't know if that's right. I don't think it's Burger King. That was way later.
You are correct. I was in college at that time.
Yeah. So, like, why do I feel like I have a memory, which my memory is all jumbled, so it makes sense if this isn't true. I feel like you worked for a newspaper company.
No, that is that's not what it is. I have worked in radio before, but not my first job. Remember, I was in high school, so I was kind of limited to my area, which there is a lot in the area I grew up in, so that might not help a ton. I will say that you were warm with Burger King, so not necessarily fast food, but warm in the type of idea of what Burger King is.
Okay. I wonder if it's along the lines of restaurant or more just retail-ish.
It is restaurant oriented.
It's restaurant.
So I'll give you one guess, something in the restaurant department.
I can't remember. You might have mentioned this, but nothing like I'm thinking like all the fast food places and stuff or restaurants. I'll say Applebee's. Why not?
Oh, I was actually just thinking the position. You never would have gotten the actual company name. It's called the Tavern at Clover, which does not exist anymore.
Oh, I thought you were looking for the company.
No, I should have made that more clear.
Okay.
But it is a restaurant-based position.
Okay, so like you were like a waiter or a cook?
I was a dishwasher.
Dishwasher.
So.
Close.
Yeah. I worked close to the cooks, but yeah, that building where the restaurant used to be was abandoned one time, and I went back there because I wasn't sure if they were open or not, and I just happened to walk in there, and there was a bunch of stuff laying around, so like people had just left it there. So, but anyhow, that's a fun little thing I figured we could start doing. So, hey, maybe next week you'll have a couple for me, and then I can get stumped.
Maybe. We'll see.
All right, then. Well, until next time, that'll wrap things up today on the Stronger Than Steel podcast. As always, if you have any questions about the show, please email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our episodes posted on YouTube under the name Stronger Than Steel Podcast and on our new home for our podcast, anchor.fm/Stronger Than Steel. Until next time, thank you for listening and have a good night. Go Steelers.
Bye.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.